What is up, and welcome back to another episode of So There's That. I am your hostess, doing the mostest, Kiwanshi, and we are here with the 2 episode premiere on MGM Plus of Stephen King's The Institute. Y'all, I love to read. I don't know if I've said that on here, but even in the last week, I've already read like 12 books. I read very fast, and I like to read. I need to read things that are 400 pages or more, but if it's in a series, I'm a series girly. Now, what started my love of books? Like, sure, I was getting read to and stuff as a kid, Three Little Pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, all that good stuff. But as like vocabulary grew, my interest grew and all these other things, the first like real novel that I got, I had to be like 7 or 8, and it was a Stephen King novel. It was a Stephen King novel about dragons of all things. Now, I love sci-fi, I love horror, I love like lore and folk and tale and all of these other things. And it was just incredible. And then I don't know, it's something about like when you first get exposed to something or somebody, then you see it everywhere. And that's when I started being like, okay, like The Shining was made by Stephen King, and then Stephen King's It. By the time I saw it, it was like, oh my God, like I know who Stephen King is. Hella books by him, and he's still writing. The Institute, the novel, was written in 2019. This is one of the fastest book to TV adaptations I have seen in my life. Like, this is crazy. But I could not be more excited, y'all. These first 2 episodes is absolutely insane. So, before I get into just my thoughts and the vibe of what's going to be going on this season, y'all know I got to do my spiel. So let me give the credit where the credit is due. So The Institute episode 1 is titled The Boy, and episode 2 is titled Shots for Dots. The Logline. A teen genius wakes up in a strange place full of children who got there the same way that he did, and who all, like him, possess unusual abilities. Creator and novel by Stephen King, and he also serves as a producer on this project. The genre is psychological horror. The director, why didn't I look this up before I sat down? Not me thinking I was done. The director, Jack Bender, is on 4 episodes this season, and Brad Turner is on 2 of them. Bear with me, bear with me. So Jack Bender directed the first episode. Few writers on this, so obviously Stephen King, because the novel is based on the show is based on his novel. And then it was teleplayed by Benjamin Cavell. The costume designer is Rachel Grant. And visual effects, Benjamin Mossman, who is the visual effects supervisor, and Vanesh Viknatas, who is the digital compositor. Special effects, Julian Bell. And one memento. That's crazy that IMDb doesn't mention who the cinematographer is. Give me a second, y'all. I apologize. I thought I finished getting all of my information because I already watched the show, got to preview it. Before y'all be in these comments, I am able to preview and screen the show for y'all ahead of schedule. However, shows like From or what was another one? Paradise and things like that. Shows that I am just genuinely excited about. I mean, well, obviously, because they make it to the podcast. So all of them. I try not to watch ahead. So if you ask in the comment section, did I see next week's episode? I did not. Will I watch next week's episode before y'all see it? Yes. But I don't like looking ahead because I don't want to accidentally give away any spoilers. So yeah, not trying to do any of that. Cinematographers. So there's two cinematographers that are credited here, and Vince Arvidson is one of them, and Chrsitopher Ball is the other. Lord, I dropped the ball on that. My bad. The cast includes Joe Freeman, who plays young Luke, Ben Barnes, who plays Tim, Simone Miller, who plays Kalisha, Julian Richings, who plays Stackhouse. So excited to see his face in here. Robert Joy, if you watched From, he is Victor's dad, Henry, in From. He plays Dr. Hendricks. And Mary-Louise Parker, who plays Sigsby or Miss Sigsby, if you want to be like more professional about it. Okay, so before we get into like my thoughts and things about the first two episodes. So if you didn't read the book, I have not read the book. I do want to read it. But if you read the book, then you know that Luke in the book was 12 years old. And in the show, he is 14. Now, I did do a review and I posted it to TikTok if you want to go and see it on there. So I'll just briefly talk about like why I enjoy the fact that this character was aged up. Somebody was in the TikTok comments was something about not wanting to get kids or whatever. I don't know, because there is a child in episode 2 that ends up joining the show. So I'm like, the age of kid workers has nothing to do with this. My theory about aging up Luke and making him 14 is just dealing with the hormones and the emotions and the identity that you end up kind of beginning to own or just beginning to recognize within yourself when you're a teenager and those hormones really hit. Versus being a 12-year-old, there's still some insecurity. You're not really sure of yourself. You believe adults more than you trust your gut. But from the moment you meet Luke, even in the first episode where you think these kids are gonna maybe like bully him or do something when he's sitting on the stairs just trying to eat his lunch and mind his business. Um, Even when they come up to him, yeah, he's a little awkward, but he's staring them in their eyes. He's being patient with them. What do you want? What do you need? Okay, bet. Actually, you would think to do that, and that is great, but it's a great way to trip you up. He has his interaction with these kids who you could look at and in that moment think like, oh, these must be the bullies, these must be like the stereotypical like cool kids or whatever. And that interaction doesn't really come. And I believe that is with somebody like him. He is extremely smart, which makes him extremely aware of the people around him and aware of himself and his own strengths and his own abilities. So Luke being 14 and the Luke that we meet in the show, you're not getting one past him and you're not shaking his resolve within himself. And then thinking about just that age, right? Just take yourself back to that age. There's such a defiance that comes when you turn 14. You're in high school now. You're trying to like not look like a kid to the juniors and the seniors. You're trying to look like somebody who the eighth graders and seventh graders can look up to, but it still is like this awkward space because you're back being like the small fish in a big pond. So you have like a little bit of that going on, but a lot of that fire and a lot of that defiance and a lot of that learning to trust yourself is where one Mr. Luke Ellis, I believe is his last name in here, is sitting. So we know that his parents knows that he has some type of ability of some sort. Right now, it seems like something that he can't necessarily control, but it just seems like something that they've been living with. Y'all know how people are, right? And by people, I mean adults. And by adults, I mean the selfish ones. And by selfish, I mean the ones that just want to get rich. So instantly, we're thrust in this world where Luke gets kidnapped and wakes up in this place where they built a replica of his room. So clearly, he's been getting stalked for a long time. And they send in Kalisha to be like the welcoming party. And in he's like in the hallway. He's like, girl, what do you want? And she's like, oh, well, that's just how everybody is. And he's like, yeah, okay. So they sent another kid to try to distract me from the fact that I actually got kidnapped by a bunch of adults, but they thought that this was going to be better because we're kid to kid. And so Sigsby and Stackhouse are watching. And they're like, okay, we know that he's super highly observant, you know, based on his file and the things that they've gathered on him. But Luke is like, yeah. Take me to like whoever is in charge. Now, Kalisha goes and she kisses him. And it's meant to distract him. And he's like, that was nice. Never did that before. Hold that thought because we have been kidnapped. Like, girl, you're not distracting me. And instantly, I'm like, let's go. We have 8 episodes with the series, and y'all know teenagers be getting on my last nerves, and I mean the last nerves. I hated being a teenager. I hated being around teenagers. I still don't like being around teenagers. There's just so much going on in the body and in the mind, and they don't know how to express it, or it comes out in these ways, and they're like, oh, they're just so smart, and they're so stupid, and they're impulsive and cautious, but scared, but then fearless, and it comes out in these ways that make you look at them and be like, let me replay your life for you real quick. Like, you just want to take a teenager and sit them down and strap them to a chair and be like, now you look at all the decisions that you just made and how that went out, and then you tell me, like, what would you do differently? Like, that's what it is. And lately, like, teen shows other than Netflix's Forever, which was based on a book, um yeah, they've like sucked. And the industry is not really catering to YA anymore, and that is so sad because I grew up Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Charmed, Angel, um what else? I was already kind of grown, but it was still in the same vein. Pretty Little Liars, The Vampire Diaries. I was watching Supernatural when I was in high school when Supernatural started. Um, Power Rangers, That's So Raven, Taina, like True Jackson VP. There were just so many shows to go and watch and just, I don't know, fantasize and daydream about being that cool teenager eventually when you got older, or being that cool young adult when you got older. And now, if there's shows that center teens or like young adults, they are put in such very extremely adult situations, or they're like really dumb. And it's just like, this is not the life of a teenager. This is not the life of like a young 20 something. Like, what are we doing? And so, for this to be a psychological horror surrounding teens who were kidnapped by adults, I was a little hesitant because I love Stephen King. I trust Stephen King. Um, he has books that has kids as like the main, the main characters that I've read. And it's like, will this translate in the show? So the fact that I like got the information that he's like producing on the show, it's like, okay, cool. They're not going to do this wrong. And anybody that's heard it from the novel and doing the teleplay work, you're working side by side with the person who gave you the green light to adapt their work. So already that gave me like the confidence to dive into it. But episode 1, Joe Freeman, the actor who plays Luke, he sucks you in immediately. And because he's such no nonsense, you know that this is not your average teen movie. Like, at the end of the day, Luke and Kalisha, I think Nikki is the older boy that's there. They're like, yeah, we're getting the fuck up out of here. I'm not calling it whatever it is they say that we're calling it. We're not doing that. So what powers you got? Like, what were you doing? So their powers stem around telepathy or telekinesis. And Miss Sigsby is telling them, like, oh, you got the front room and you got the back room. So the front room is where we're doing all of these different tests. We're trying to bring your abilities to the surface so that you can call on them in real time, and so that you can control them more. And you're doing all of this for such an amazing time. And when you graduate the front room and you go into the back room, that is where all the things really happen. Like, we're going to be entrusting you to save the world. Like, y'all are doing great. You are doing great. And Luke can use his powers sometimes, but he can't use them all the time. But something that he doesn't need power for at all is hyper observation. And my man's is using his eyes, his ears, and even the things that they don't say. And he's mapping out a plan to get the fuck out of there. Now, with Nikki, he has been getting himself in trouble so that he doesn't go to the back room, because he doesn't believe like that they're going off to greener pastures. He genuinely believes that they're killing them. And he comes from a foster background, so foster to foster to foster. And so you're kind of getting like a little bit of a mix of who's taking the types of kids that these people are taking. But in this case, especially with Luke, while his parents, when we first meet them, still seem like a little wary, like, I wish he kind of wouldn't like accidentally use his powers in public. Luke seems like he comes from a family who would look for him. And in these type of situations, if you are already snatching kids off the streets who parents were embarrassed of them or were abusive to them, foster care or whatever, then they're likely not going to be looking for these kids. And in Luke's case, from what we at least know so far with what we've seen of his relationship with his parents, they seem to be the type of people who's going to file a missing persons report. Like, it doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's just taken lightly. And there were like 2 or 3 times where Luke was like, okay, well, do my parents know about this? Got it. So can I call my parents? So my parents don't know. You're telling me that I can't call them. Okay. And so, like, what bullshit story did you tell them? Like, his confidence in that, the confident way in which he was challenging them on even talking to his parents, kind of lets me know as a viewer that they may be a catalyst to get people to start looking at least for him. But on the inside, Nick and Luke, they're kind of like forming a little bond of some sort, enough of a bond to figure out how to come up with a plan to get them to break out of it. So they're trying to scan for like blind spots. They're trying to get information from the staff that's there. So like the staff, like who does like their checkups, janitorial staff, who comes in and feeds them, things like that. So people who, they kind of know something shisty is going on, but they're just trying to make the experience for the kids as best as possible given the situation. And the institute itself, it's like, oh, like Nikki was telling Luke, they try to sell you on this whole like, there's no rules here, there's no adults, you can smoke if you want, you can drink if you want, you can eat candy for breakfast, you can eat breakfast for dinner, nobody's telling you what to do. And so there's a sense of autonomy that they're trying to sell to these kids. And from the conversations that we've had, a few of them bought these fucking wolf tickets and they were believing it. But Luke instantly was like, no. And when Nikki came into the scene and Luke's kind of like listening to what he's saying, he's like, okay, cool, 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 cool. And at first, again, you think there might be some tension. You think, being a teenager and having hormones is going to get in the way of the job. Why am I saying that? Because Luke ends up seeing Kalisha and Nikki like holding hands and shit and doing all types of stuff. And Luke like looks and he's like, this bitch literally just kissed me this morning. The fuck? But it really doesn't get in the way of that at all. Like, at the end of the day, Luke is like, how are we getting out of here? Like, it just is what it is. Now, something has nothing to do with the show, everything to do with Joe Freeman. Something about Joe Freeman's features, his cadence, and his physical acting in this is giving me how Rami Malek moved his body and his face in Bohemian Rhapsody as well as Mr. Robot. Like Joe's performance. When the Saturn Awards come out, and hopefully I'm able to vote again, and they say like best young actor or whatever, Joe, you got my vote. I'm saying it right now. It's only July. He has my vote. He has my vote. There is just a level of power that this young man, how old is he in real life? That this young man is carrying on the show. And I'm pretty sure Ben Barnes is listed first on the call sheet, or maybe he and Joe share as co-leads. I know in the credits, Ben Barnes is mentioned first. I mentioned Joe first. And when I was listing the cast members, because I mean, it's a show about him and these other kids. But let me look up his age, because how old is there is something. He is 19, y'all. This is a powerful young actor. I have to follow his career. When you watch it, if you watched it, or yeah, if you watched it already, like comment in the comments box below. He commands these scenes in the rooms with anybody that he is in a scene with. And I just love how Luke, the character, is just like a genius who's not the one that was picked on, not the one that was beat up when we met him, not the one that's scrawny and scared and unsure. He is looking Sigsby in the eye and he's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here so you can keep your cupcakes. And he even got smacked down by is it Tony? Hold on. I hope I'm not messing up these characters, because I think the other boy is Nikki. Let me see if this is Tony. Yeah. Tony is the one who takes them to go like get their testing. He put their little tracking device and everything on. And Luke was like, yeah, I'm not doing none of that shit. And he was like, bro, you do this easy way or the hard way, little boy. Like, there's been plenty of kids before you. Like, you don't think none of them ever even tried this? And Luke was like, okay then, bro, the hard way. And he slaps the fuck out of Luke. I mean, open hand. Luke came back from getting his little ear piercing thing, and I mean, the welt on his face. Shout out to the special effects artist that did that, because my man got hit so hard, like his equilibrium should have been off. And Luke still came and sat down and was like, it's like work. Now I know what we're dealing with. Like, it is what it is. And these two episodes just set the tone for how you know this is going to go. Out the gate, Luke's presence there is already stirring up something that lived a little bit within some of these kids, where they were maybe resolved to be like, fuck, I'm never going to have enough power to get up out of here. Luke is in there and he's like, we may not have it right now. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And I promise you, we get out of here. What's the time frame between the front room and the back room? 2 weeks? Bet I'm a genius. And I can map out exactly how we're going to pull this shit off. And instantly, I'm like, this is a teen show in a genre like this that I can get behind, that I can support, which then leads you to supporting the other characters. Simone Miller as Kalisha is phenomenal. And I think they have such a really good balance at how do I do it? Infusing that teenage love triangle, potentially, whatever is going on, because teenage hormones exist. Like, let's not act like it doesn't. You leave kids by themselves without adult supervision. They want to explore, they want to ask questions, they want to do things. And Kalisha is that character, but there's just such a nice balance and a rhythm in how these things are being taken care of on set. Probably, definitely, they have an intimacy coordinator. How old is Simone Miller in real life? I don't know. Even if I was 19, um, I would want I would want my parents on set with me. Like, um, that's a lot to handle. She's also 19. Yeah, like they just out, if they out the house at all. So, you could definitely tell that there's a lot of care being taken in the things that they're experiencing on this set, like violence, like teen angst and yearning, and all of that, so that it doesn't overshadow the narrative that we're going for. And the narrative is these kids been kidnapped and they're about to beat everybody ass so that they can get out. And still infusing some stuff in there to keep the revolving door and keep your interest in the series itself. I think it's beautifully done. And to come out of the gate with premiere episodes like this, it pulls you right in. Like I said, we only had 8 episodes and they didn't waste no time. And I also love how Stephen King being involved. I love when creators adapt something and they don't insult the viewer's intelligence by trying to re-explain what the story is about when the original is out there for people to view. So I didn't read the book, right? I know that this is an adaptation. I Googled what this story was about in the book. And so as you jump into that first episode, we're not getting like a backstory and oh, they moved into town and when he was a baby and they first saw the spoon fly across the room and now he's 9 years old. And then, no, that's not what we got. He got powers that kidnapped him. What's up? And they jump into it trusting that the audience would do enough of their own homework to reference the source material so that we can just deep dive into these episodes. Because with the way that TV shows and stuff go these days, you cannot guarantee another season. You can't. One thing you can guarantee though with MGM, listen, they will re-employ their actors across these episodes, y'all. I mean, not these episodes, these different shows. And I love that. So I do love that MGM is kind of like their own version of like a Ryan Murphy with FX, and that they keep actors employed. I think that MGM makes really good use of the budgets that they're allotted across these shows to pay everybody and to produce these things. Out of all of the cancellations and stuff that's been happening, MGM has been fairly successful in their core shows that keep the subscriptions and stuff up and keep the lights on over at MGM Studios. And I can definitely see this series getting a season 2. And so because of all of those different factors, if you want a season 2, you need your season 1 not to be boring. And from the moment you meet Luke Ellis, you already know that this is about to be a fire TV show. So there's that. The Institute, MGM Plus, comes out on Sundays on the MGM Plus app. You can get it a subscription through Prime Video if you do not have it. I would love to know what y'all think. I'm going to be here every week with the show, dropping it on Mondays. Today is a Monday. As y'all are listening to this, I'm recording it on Sunday. But yeah, where my psych horror fans at? Where y'all at? Where y'all at? Where my thriller people? Where are my genre people? I need y'all to tap, tap, tap And that is going to wrap up this episode, of course. And as always, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments in the comments box below. If you got people that only want to listen to the audio version, you can go ahead and share the Spotify and Apple Podcast links. You can find me on Instagram at So There's That Podcast, where I discuss film and TV news and updates. You can also find me doing short form content on TikTok at Kivanchi, as well as talking all types of shit on Twitter at Kivanchi. And with that, I'm going to catch y'all in the next episode.